Okay, we're going to talk about verse form. Okay, how to mark verse form. There are two parts to marking verse form. One is rhyme scheme, and the other is feet and meter. Okay, so what we're looking at today are the first 4 lines from Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, the prologue, which is on page 170 in your book. So the first thing we're going to look at then is marking rhyme, or rhyme scheme. So how do you know if a line of poetry has rhyme or not? What do you look at? The last word in each line. So we're going to look at the last word in each line, and we're going to see which of those words then rhyme. And we could keep going here with the next two are brief and heath. Okay? And what we're looking for is a pattern. A scheme is a pattern. So we're looking for rhyme, and then we're looking for a pattern of rhyme. That's why it's called rhyme scheme. So let's look at this. In order to mark then the rhyme scheme, we use letters in order to do that. And so we always mark the first line, the word at the end of the first line, we always mark it A. Okay, so soot then here is going to be A. So the next line is going to end with the word root. So we have to ask ourselves the question, does root rhyme with suit? Yes. If it does, then what am I going to mark it? A. A. So this also is an A. The next line ends with the word liqueur. Does that word rhyme with suit and root?
No.
No, so it becomes
B.
B. What about this one?
It's B.
It's supposed to be B as well. Fleur is supposed to rhyme with liqueur. Now, I know today we don't say fleur, we say flower, or from West Texas flower, but that would not then fit the rhyme scheme. So we have to always remind ourselves that A, this is from Great Britain, so we've got British influence. Also, at this point, it's still old kind of medieval English, and so we need to take that into consideration as well. So sometimes you have to play with it a little bit. But liqueur is going to be a B. Fleur then is also going to be a B. What about brief?
C.
C. And he?
C.
C. So you see how that works then. So what would the rhyme scheme of Chaucer's Canterbury Tales be? A, B, B, C, C, and so on. Yeah, and following, and so on. That was the rhyme scheme. The next thing we have to do is what's called marking feet and meter, and this is a little bit more complicated.
So is there a name for that, or is it just A, A, B, B?
It's just A, B, B, C, C. Yeah, and it varies from different poems rhyme in different patterns, and they're just called a scheme. So sometimes it would be, if it's a 5-line, sometimes it's A, B, B, C, B. If it's a 4-line quatrain, sometimes it's A, B, A, B. Sometimes it's A, B, B, A. There are lots of different patterns, but you always just use the letters. Okay? And you do that for a stanza.
So is it only going to go through A, B, C?
No, no, no. It could go through, we could keep going here to where we would go to Z, Z, A, B, 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 C, C, C. I mean, this could go on infinitum. I mean, we could go on forever and ever and ever. There isn't any reason to do that, though. Because once we've discovered, what is this called when 2 lines at a time rhyme? They're rhyming how? In couplets. It's called rhyming in couplets, like 2 people is a couple. So it's a couplet. If we had 3 lines that rhymed, it would be a tercet. 4 lines that rhymed would be a quatrain, and so on. Okay? And so you're going to mark an entire stanza or group of lines. In Chaucer, we don't have stanzas. Okay, an entire prologue is all one stanza. An entire tale is all one stanza. So we don't have stanzas. But this one then, it tells us, is going to just keep repeating in couplets. A, B, B, C, C. So that's marking far enough. Okay? All right, the next thing we're going to talk about then is marking feet and meter. And you might want to get your poetry terminology handout handy and be able to look at the bottom of page 2 and the top of page 3 under number 36, which is rhythm. And so I'm going to erase all except line 2 here. Because we're just going to mark one line when we look at feet and meter. And so we're going to look at, all right, does every line fit the same pattern? But we have to start marking a line. Typically, we don't mark the first line of poetry. Typically, we skip to one of the second, third, fourth, fifth lines. For some reason, and I don't know exactly what that is, it would make an interesting study, but I've never done it. Poets don't always establish a very clear pattern in the first line. So we want to start with another line. The line that I've given you on your prologue study guide, I ask you in number 6 to copy out line 6 of the general prologue. So we'll look at that one in as well here in just a minute. But for right now, let's look at this one, which is line 2. When we mark feet and meter, we're marking two things, basically based around the idea of stress. Which words get stresses, which words don't get stresses. Which syllables get stresses, which syllables don't get stresses. So the first thing we do is we read the line out loud, and you want to divide any words into syllables.